Hi y'all. So I'm back. I am Jess. This is Jess Checks Out. Surprisingly, I check out books. I know you're shocked by this fact, but it kind of is an actual fact. By the way, in the corner of these videos, if you ever see that down there, those are mine and my husband's stuffed animals that we have collected. I used to give him frogs, and he has a couple of his other ones from his childhood. We're keeping him there until we eventually get the baby's room set there, but this way we know exactly what it is. Books, books, stuffed animals. Okay, so I am here to talk about my April wrap up. I know it's almost May. Look, I had a quarterly one I had to do too, and I had to like them around a little bit. So this is a pretty interesting month for me. April was actually when I went back to reading more books. It's probably the most I've read in a month for the whole year. Thank God for audiobooks because literally most of them are audiobooks. April was also an interesting month because I announced my pregnancy. And I bring that up because I wasn't sure how to announce it. So being able to say something was actually pretty important to me. And I also posted a book review for Elektra, which I will link down below, because I loved Elektra, and I will talk about that a little bit further into the reviews of what I read this month, or in April, I guess I should say. But that's the basics. Now, the breakdowns are a little bit different than normal because I don't really want to go into it, and I just kind of made it simple. So I had two ebooks, 8 audiobooks. The 2 ebooks were both publishers. They were NetGalley reviews, and then the other 8 were audiobooks from Libby. All right. In case if you're wondering why I look over there, I think someone is actually grilling right now. It's summer and well, it's spring, but summer weather in Germany, and so you see it a lot. So either there's someone grilling or pollen. The one we never know which one. Okay, so let's do some breakdowns. I DNF'd 2 books, and I was very sad to DNF them, by the way. One was Mother Knows Best, which was a Disney villains book. I actually like the Mother Gothel storyline. I like the background and stuff. I just had no interest in reading about zombies with Disney. I got 6% in, and I was like, nah, we good. And then I also DNF'd The Huntress of Thornbeck Forest. And this one was this was a YA, and it was kind of like a Robin Hood retelling with a woman Robin Hood, which I thought was great. 11% in, and I didn't care about the lead. I didn't care about the heroine at all, so I bumped that one out fairly quickly too. I'm getting much better about this because if it comes from the library or something, I don't feel bad about not reading something because I haven't paid for it. Well, I pay, you know what I mean. So I haven't like put money towards it. Okay, individually. Then we had the Ice Queen, which there's a review on that, and I will link that below also. And wow, I keep hitting this. Sorry, guys. I keep hitting the thing that the tripod is on. It's a little bit, the shelf is a little wonky. It's a little tilted and a little bit crazy, but anyway, we're going to keep using it because it's perfect for this. All right, so the Ice Queen I gave 1 star, was feeling generous. Again, review is down there below. We'll get back to that later, but ultimately, well, not later, but like we'll get back to that in that review that I posted, but ultimately did not like it, was not a fan. Now, I did have 2 stars, but I did have 3, I had 3 stars. So I had Being Patrick Swayze, which was an arc, and I had Behind the Screen. So Being Patrick Swayze I was very interested in because I was born in the 80s. I grew up watching Patrick Swayze, and I grew up feeling like he was someone that was not a jerk. So I was very interested in learning more about him. It's more of a coffee book than it is like a look into him. It's a guide by guide, and I don't think I was the right audience for this book, sadly. But I think it would appeal if you want to have like dinner parties and trivia and that kind of talk about what this random fact or whatever. But I didn't really learn a lot about Patrick Swayze, and unfortunately, that's what kept it at a 3 star. And then I read Behind the Screen, which was a YA short story. And as you know, all these covers are up here, so I don't remember the author, but It wasn't bad. For what it was, it actually was not that bad. I have a review coming up on Bookstagram. These are up now or it'll be coming up soon on the story. But it read a little bit older because it was talking about the hazards of online dating and online security, and I thought that was a really interesting way of doing it, and it was available through the library, so hey, I'm there for it. But it just read a little bit too old. Like I saw a lot of like 1 stars and stuff like that, but I think sometimes the reader isn't the target audience, and I take that into account. Just the lead characters felt like the main storyline was going a little bit too far away from what they were looking at, right? So not really a fan of that either. Now, I will say the writing was kind of young as well. So that's just my star on that. And then I gave 3.5 stars to Intercepted by Alexa Martin, and I know that because I've read Fumbled in May, so I'm going to do my May wrap up. We'll go over that one. Intercepted was pretty interesting because I love sports romances. If you like The Chicago Stars by Susan Elizabeth Phillips, you will like this more because this one has a cast of diverse characters, of situations, and I say diverse because there's a little bit of there's an interesting mix of not just race and class, but also like philosophical thought, and there's a bunch of really interesting combinations there, and I really found it pretty interesting. I only gave it 3.5 stars because I didn't really believe the romance. Unfortunately, I felt like it was a little bit lacking. I have this thing where I want the man to actually deserve the woman because this is a male female romance. I want the man to deserve the woman, and sometimes I think that doesn't always happen. So, yeah, but definitely 3.5 stars, which means it's good. It's just not the best I read, but it's definitely something worth reading. And then I had 2 4 stars, and that was The Lady from the Black Lagoon and A Spindle Splintered. Okay, so The Lady from the Black Lagoon is fantastic. It's a nonfiction book about Millicent Patrick, who was one of the first women animators at Disney, who created the suit for the creature from the Black Lagoon. She did a lot of really amazing things. She didn't get credit for most of them. She grew up for her first, basically her first, 10 years or so at the Hearst Castle when it was being built by William Randolph Hearst, who, of course, was a publishing mogul, and his family still owns Hearst Publishing. So there was a lot of interesting facts about there. I mentioned in the quarter 1 wrap up how much I love the Love Lucy book. This would actually be a really good one to read later or afterwards because it talks about the other side of Hollywood. It talks about how the Westmores basically destroyed Melissa Patrick's career. The Westmores, of course, are still very famous in Hollywood for their special effects and their the facial special effects, with the makeup and stuff. And so it's a very interesting. I of course was interested because I realized at the time that Mackenzie Westmore is, I think, Michael Westmore's daughter, who of course is related to the Westmores that kind of screwed up Melissa Patrick's, and Mackenzie Westmore was Sheridan on Passion, so I know who she is. She was also on a sci-fi special effects makeup show kind of based around what her dad used to do. So I thought that was very interesting. I loved how deep it went into her history and how Millicent Reed changed her history and made herself fix in. My dog is very stretchy at the moment. I really recommend this book. I gave it 4 stars just simply because I think sometimes the author put a little bit too much of her experiences in outside of what it related to that, and it didn't really fit the narrative too well. But I really enjoyed it. And then I also love A Spindle Splintered, which was a short one that I got through my library. So that one was really fun because it was Sleeping Beauty, and I thought it was very interesting to see how Sleeping Beauty worked within the mind frame of a multiverse, basically, and how they can come together and work together and find things and work and create a community almost. I was really interested in that. I want to read the rest of the series. I just have to find it. And I was so into that book. I liked the feelings and the emotions and the openness in certain situations and certain figurations. I love that kind of stuff. That's definitely up my alley. And then I had a 4.5 star, which was Forget Me Not. Forget Me Not is I guess it's a middle grade verse book, and it deals with what happens when someone has Tourette's and faces ableism everywhere they go, both within their family, their community, the medical community. Like, what happens and how do you do that? And what happens when you have to let go of that fear when you keep moving around because there's no stability in your life? And I thought that was a really, really strong narrative that I hadn't seen. And apparently, the author, Ellie Terry, is a writer who has Tourette's, and I think it really works because it gives an authenticity to this story. I hadn't heard of it before, but I thought it was really well done. I listened to the audiobook, and the verse really matched the speed, and everything was fantastic. I highly recommend this book. And it was also like what happens when the popular boy has to stop believing everything that they say in order to find his own way. And I think there's a very feeling about how do you other yourself from a group that you don't necessarily want to other yourself from, but you have to make the best decisions for yourself. Loved it. Oh my God, it was fantastic. If you love like Clap When You Land, Poet X, books that have that strong voice, I highly recommend this book. I think it's good for middle grade, middle grade. It has a lot of thought and it has a lot of feelings, but it stays within the age range, and that doesn't always happen with some of the younger books. Definitely something I would look out for. 4.5 star. But I keep debating whether I want to make it to a 4.5 to 5 star, because honestly, I was just so impressed with the quality of the writing and the quality of the narration and the fact everything went working the way it should. And finally, the actual 5 star was Elektra. I'm not going to go too deep into it because I have a whole video out that I will link below. But basically, it's a very, I don't want to say a strong narrative, even though it is, but it's more of a strong clash of interest and a clash of what you see and what you experience and what you are is not necessarily all of the same things above. And I love that. And I love the fact that it's got a lot of beauty and wonder and depth to the horror almost. And when I say beauty, I don't mean like Helen or, because this is set in the Trojan War. I don't mean that. I mean the beauty in the creation of it, the time, the effort, the amount of care that went into creating that and crafting that narrative. Creating and crafting that narrative. Huh, look at that. I can say it after all. I don't have notes for these, by the way, like I normally do, because I just want to run it and done. I will say, please, before you read it, actually watch that video, because I talk a lot about the content warnings, and there are a ton in this one. So the content warnings are like this long. So just keep that in mind. But other than that, that was my April reading, and I think that it went relatively well. I read 8 books. Like, this is huge for me. I usually don't read that many books anymore. And I had 2 arcs. They were Elektra and Being Patrick Swayze. One got a 5, one got a 3. Not bad. The Being Patrick Swayze is only like 140 pages as well. I read the arc, and I think actually if I'd read the physical copy, it may have been a little bit better. Because I will say, in Being Patrick Swayze, there is very interesting quizzes you can give each other. Like, you read them aloud, you write them down, or blah blah blah. Like, it's very much a party book, or a small dinner at the end of it type book. And I hadn't seen that in a while, so that actually was a pretty good addition to it. But I think that I'm catching my groove now that I've been reading the May books. I've been reading a lot of variety of what I've been reading. It's been a lot of romance, so I'll probably be a little bit romance heavy again this month. Well, next month when I wrap up in May, but it's recording in May. This one is. Anyway, so I hope you enjoyed what I had to say. It always feels weird to say, doesn't it? Like, okay, so I hope you had a really good reading month in April. And I hope that you found one book that really stood out for you. If you want to tell me what that is in the comments below, or just tell me anything. Do you like to read nonfiction? Because I love media studies and nonfiction and stuff like that. It's kind of like one of those jam things that don't really talk about that much, but I really, really enjoy it. I hope you can hit the like button, subscribe button, the little belly thing, and we will talk to each other next time. I don't know what the next video is going to be because I don't know. It's me. Who knows? I have a really weird life right now being pregnant. I don't always have the time to do things I want to do, or the motivation, or the energy, but I always have time for chocolate ice cream, apparently. All right, guys. I'll see you next time. Bye.